Alrighty, so welcome everybody. This is going to be one of our other interviews in our Super Success Series, little TV show that we're sort of doing here. We've got a very special guest here today. It's Tim Farr from Midpoint Wealth Management, and he's going to talk to us a lot about today, business valuations and also performance benchmarking, two topics that he's really familiar with and can really help you with. So we're going to ask him a whole bunch of questions, get some info from him, and hopefully help you guys out a lot today. So welcome, Tim. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And you're just back from holidays, are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very relaxed, mate. Very relaxed. So
you're looking very fresh. You got the colourful shirt happening and everything.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully it's not too bright there at your end, but I'm tired of wearing the old blue shirt, blue tie, so I tend to try that as much as possible.
I feel a bit guilty. I decided to go with the couch today, so I thought I'd just make it a bit more relaxed. So you do financial planning, wealth management, all that sort of stuff. Do you just want to tell people about what your background is, what you did, and how you got to where you are now, and what your experience is?
Sure. So what we specialise really is helping business owners drive their businesses for both greater performance in both profitability and in terms of its value. So my background is I'm a financial advisor. We're an advisory firm, and when we look at an investment, when we look at a business, really, we consider it as an investment. For most business owners, it's your most significant time-sucking and money-sucking endeavour.
Yeah.
And what we want to make sure is that you really look at your business as an investment and consider what sort of returns you're getting on that investment, given the amount of risk, time, and dollar contribution that you need to make it a profitable exercise. So that's really the mindset we look at it. So when we talk to business owners really have three roles or three hats, we call it.
Yeah.
The first hat's being an employee. It's doing the job. It's usually they went into business because they're great technicians at something, but they're sort of stuck in being tied to a desk or tied to whatever business activity they're doing. The second role is being the director of the business. Suddenly they're lumped with all these responsibilities across a whole range of issues. And the third area of responsibility or hat is a shareholder. And only one of those three hats will enable most business owners to achieve time and money freedom, which is why most people go into business in the first place, is to have greater flexibility.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I really want to help dentists with is really just show them the business side of things, and a lot of them will graduate and go straight into their own practice, and they've been taught all these things about dentistry, but there's obviously it gets a bit overwhelming with all the stuff about business they need to learn, and that's what our role is, to really help them with the business side of things and help them create a profitable, all that effort that they've spent learning about dentistry. We want to convert that into a successful business as well. So
that's a totally different mindset, and the way you run your business is quite different. You can fall into the trap of, particularly for dentists or medical professionals when they go into practice, it's essentially they're buying themselves a job. And that's often the way that those businesses are run. Moving the business to an investment or something that provides passive income and returns is then something that you need to do in a systematic way over a period of time, and it just requires a different approach. So
totally. So the two sort of main topics I'd love to chat with you about today is business valuation, one, and also performance benchmarking, both very important. Why do you think we'll start with business valuations? Why do you think it's important to have an accurate business valuation? Because I guess a lot of people think, I could just go to my accountant and they can tell me how much I'm worth, but there's actually, there's lots of things that they don't take into account, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. Look, business is only ever really in two stages. You're either growing your business or you're going. That's really either one of the things. There's no business out there I know that aims to go sideways. You're either growing or you're preparing for exit. So I'll talk about the differences and the importance of valuations in both of those two stages. So if you're looking at growing your business, it really comes back to that concept of your business as being an investment as such, because of the amount of time and energy and involved. And what you need to make sure is that you're getting a reasonable return. So let's say, for argument's sake, you had $1 million that you wanted to invest. One of the first things you're going to consider is, well, what's the return or interest that I'm going to get on my $1 million before you place that investment? And the way you figure that out is usually like a percentage. So maybe it's a 5% return or a 10% return, etc.
Yeah.
The same is true with the business, but to figure out the percentage return, you actually need to know how much is actually tied up in the business in the first place. What is the investment value actually worth?
Yeah.
So in simple terms, if you're getting profit of $100,000, you would only know that was a 10% return if you could accurately knew that your business was worth $1 million. Okay, if you didn't have any clue as to what its value was, you wouldn't know whether the percentage return was reasonable or not.
Yeah.
So that's really critical. As a growing business, you need to actually understand whether you're actually improving the value of your business over a period of time. What's your investment worth? Are you actually improving it? Okay, because business owners are dependent on both the business returns for lifestyle and paying the mortgage, sending the kids to school, etc., etc. But they're also going to be dependent on for retirement one day, and that's one of the real critical issues we can talk about that applies to medical professionals, because they've got some really particular challenges in that space when it comes to exiting their business or even onboarding someone into their business as well.
I think it's just so crucial because a lot of them will kind of get to the end. Many of them will get to the end of their career and they'll realise that the business is almost entirely dependent on them. And they don't really have much of an exit strategy, and when they go to sell the business they get a value and it's not really worth as much as they thought it would be. It's a bit of a sobering moment for them, especially when they, if they do it at such a late stage where they don't have time to correct it or correct it in an effective sort of way. So in terms of, sorry, I'm just getting another call coming through. In terms of performance benchmarking, why do you think that is so crucial? I obviously have my own ideas, but in your experience, why do you think it's been so valuable for many businesses you've worked with?
Yeah, so look, I think performance benchmarking is really a key business tool. There's no other tool that I know of that is effective in figuring out how you should prioritise any of your time and money in terms of improvement in your business and strategic planning. Yep. Most business owners will usually get sucked into what might be the latest or greatest idea, and barrel down that road or track of thought without actually figuring out whether that endeavour is actually the very thing that's going to provide them the return or improvement in profitability. So by doing a performance benchmarking exercise, you get to know exactly what areas of your business are performing, underperforming.
Yeah.
Now, some business owners will say, look, Tim, I understand my financials really well. That may be the case, but what you don't know in many instances how your business financials perform to the top performers in your industry.
Yeah.
And what that tells you is, well, where are you inefficient? Where are you wasting money? Are you getting the productivity or return on people? Is the amount of time it takes you to collect money into your business far too long? And is the return you're getting on investment actually appropriate for your type of industry? So once you understand the value, you can understand the percentage return, and then okay, well, for a dentistry practice, let's say for argument's sake, then I should be getting a 30-40% profit on my business.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you overlay your financials to those key numbers, that industry data, you get immediate insight as to what aspects of your business aren't up to scratch, or what are only just performing at average levels.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge gap. I think a lot of practices, they have a rough idea, but they don't crunch the numbers enough. And even if you're, I think, not a numbers sort of person, or you're not someone that really loves, sitting down and crunching numbers, I just think it's such a risky thing to do, to just be going on your instinct about what you think what your reality is right now. Because often, once everything's said and done, your profits probably aren't as good as you think they are. And you really need to just be so across that. It's probably the biggest difference between an amateur business owner and a professional. It's just being really in. Even if they don't do it themselves, they should have someone that is across that and reporting that back to them at least.
Exactly. And then you can measure the results of any improvement projects you might endeavour throughout the year. So let's say for most businesses, there's three key challenges: the time or lack of time, the team performance, because wage costs for most businesses are the greatest area of costs. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure you're getting your team performing productive and getting a reasonable return on that. and the dollars. So you need to know anything you do, whether it be marketing or financial management, is actually then when you go performance benchmark data for a second time,
Yeah.
and then seeing an improvement in those key metrics.
Yeah.
It's really critical. Now, one of the points you made earlier when we were talking before is the fact that if you're only working with an accountant, generally an accountant will try and minimise tax. That's really his own goal.
Yeah.
Unless he's instructed otherwise. And for most business owners, you want to reduce your tax, right? I'm the same. I'm no different. The problem is that they will produce the financials in such a way to minimise tax. And to do that, you actually have to look as though you're not earning as much as you really are.
Yeah.
Okay? So, your costs are higher, or the way you derive your income is different. So the key takeaway from that is if any of your clients or who's ever listening now is going to undertake a performance benchmarking exercise themselves, you really need to look at adjusting those figures back to commercial terms.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're only drawing the owner of the business is only drawing, say, 50 grand, 80 grand a year, well, that's not a commercial level of drawings. We need to actually put that back to a level that's commensurate for a dentist professional.
Yeah.
And it could even be percentage-based fees. So many of the doctors will work on a various percentage of gross professional fees or services that they render.
Yeah.
So what is that commercially acceptable or adopted rate that's relevant for that particular specialist industry, whether they be in endodontics or whether they be a general practitioner, which area of dentistry. Each area of dentistry will have different commercial arrangements that they'll generally work on.
Yep.
And it's critical that you do the benchmarking exercise based on those adjusted figures, not the raw data, because you'll get the wrong answer.
Yeah, because I think one thing we discussed before is just especially if you're looking to buy a practice and they provide some sort of financials, it may not take into account that the numbers have been changed a little bit to make the profit look better than it is.
Yeah, that's right. It's called fiddling with the books. So you need to always that's a really key point. Both of those activities we talk about, performance benchmarking and valuations, not only relevant for current business owners, but it's really, really critical to do that due diligence on a potential acquisition.
Yeah.
Or if a dentist is looking to bring in someone into their practice, well, you need to understand exactly what is your business worth, what commitment that they're making a contribution, how do they get remunerated, what's your exit point, and understanding what your business is worth at any future point. Because if you're giving them a 50% shareholding, you need to understand what is it 50% of? Is it 50% of 800, 50% of 4 million? It's critical to actually understand where your business is at, or whether you're paying too much for a dentistry. Most industries will work on, say, a multiple of fees. The problem is it's a really poor indicator as to what a business is worth, because it doesn't tell you whether what you're purchasing is of high quality or low quality. That's where a multiple based on the quality of the business is a far more accurate indicator as to what that business is worth and whether you're acquiring it for fair value. Yeah,
and you guys do you kind of showed me all your kind of software for evaluating accurately what something's worth, and you guys, it's pretty crazy how many different metrics you guys kind of look over and double check and triple check and really kind of just you cross check it so many different ways just to get a really, really accurate picture of what something's worth. And I think even if you're not looking to buy a practice, or even if you just already got a practice, one thing that I always do when I start with someone is just to find out where they're at today in really clear terms, so then we can kind of map out a game plan to get them to that next level.
Yeah, it gives you a baseline, a really key baseline. And the valuation methodology we use is quite different in the sense that not only we actually tell you what your business is worth, but we'll actually highlight the specific areas that are affecting that result.
Yeah.
And then quantify, if you were to improve them, the difference it would make. So one really good example you touched on before is reliance on the dentist for the continuing success of the business. So in other words, if they were to exit, they don't really have a business. The value's tied up with them as an individual instead of being the value in their practice. And that's one very simple example that will have a big impact on the multiple that a business will be able, the multiple of profit that the business owner will be able to achieve at sale. So if we were able to work with that, or if you worked with Ray to go and fix those things, then we can quantify exactly what improvement that makes to your business. And it could make as much as 30 or 40% return just by addressing those key issues that affect
it's huge.
Result. So it's very strategic, it's methodical. You'll know exactly the areas you need to work on, whether you work with us in our areas of expertise, being in finances, or whether you work with yourself, Ray, across those areas of your speciality to address those particular issues. And then in 12 months' time, you can go back and reassess and say, okay, look, now we've done that, have I actually received the financial return by an improved valuation result?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, I speak with a lot of dentists, and a lot of them, they spend a lot of money on getting outside help in their business, but it's just so important to quantify, what kind of result you're getting, whether it's, I'd prefer it to be financial benefit, but also just in terms of getting time back and
it's critical. It's getting clear really what the business owner wants, and then figuring out whether the business is best to support it. But you can waste a lot of money spending time improving your business, but it actually doesn't have any tangible impact on its profitability or value. So you need to get really clear, particularly because business owners' time is so limited. What things do I do first in what order, and what result in dollar terms will they actually provide, or what does the dollars mean for me as a business owner in terms of clawing back time or find, personal wealth outcomes that they set out to achieve in the first place.
Yeah, and it's just so important to make data-driven sort of decisions. I think a lot of them, the principal dentist will just be flat out, just working. They're so into business, where it's just like, at the end of the day, most of them can't be bothered like getting that detailed into the numbers, and that's the kind of value that either one of us kind of provide, is really just where this is what we do, is just really kind of knuckling down on where you're really at. Just helps them a lot, just get a lot of clarity.
If time freedom is a really important issue, or time-work balance, then that comes back to that discussion about moving away from being the employee to being just the business owner of your business. So if you had a dentistry practice, you've got good systems and processes, you've secured a good team, you've got a marketing system that brings you consistent opportunities for revenue, then as a business owner, all you'd really do is sit back and actually collect the dividends.
Yeah,
that's really what we systematically are getting our clients to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all I sort of really care about. It's just basically like the first step is filling the practice, the second step is systemizing it, and the third step is just pulling out that owner, so then they can just start collecting all that money and just doing the good life, as I like to say.
Yeah, exactly. So we can help in terms of quantifying where they are financially now in that business, and assisting those clients of yours. But also we can say, look, how do we in the most effective way transition business wealth to the personal wealth? How do we actually get it out of the business?
Yeah.
And I talked about those two stages of either being a growth or an exit. So we talked about the growth stage of business, but exit is just as critical. And given that it takes on average 2 to 5 years to exit a business successfully, or put in place and implement a succession plan, then you really need to be mindful of, how do I improve my value, or how do I improve my investment before I get out? And then what do I do with that capital to provide me funding for that next stage of life, whether that be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. It's critical, just depending on knowing your exit and what you need to exit for is so much more important than your entry. That actually requires a lot more thought, because it's a lot harder to get out once you're in.
Yeah, totally. So for people, if people are watching and they're just like, this sounds good, I want to either, look at performance benchmarking in my practice, or I just want to get a really clear picture of where I'm at the moment. You're often kind of a deal for our viewers, anyone that's kind of interested in getting like a really accurate picture of where they're at today. Like I like to call it a bit of a no BS sort of, no fluff, just like this is where you're really at. Because one thing I always say with people, it's like, we have to be very realistic about where you are today, like, even if it hurts, but we can be optimistic about where it can be.
No one ever could change the past. If we could, well, we'd all go back and do something about it. But knowing exactly where you are now gives you clarity about exactly what you do to get where you want to be. That's really, really critical. So happy to sit down with any of those clients of yours, so they can get real clarity in dollar terms. This is not fluffy stuff, like you said. This is really adjusting your numbers getting really clear about how you perform against those in your industry, so they can work with partners like yourself to actually go and address those key issues and know that it's going to provide the financial return on any investment they might make.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just such a systematic process, and I think people get so caught up in the running of the business, and it's not really very complex. It's not easy to address the problems, but once you're really clear about what's wrong, then it's that's one of the things that I just work with people. You just break down whatever the problems are, and then we just chip away at it. And,
exactly. It's the old, where are you now? Where do you want to get to? And what do we need to exactly do to get to that point? But using your business as an investment vehicle to actually achieve those outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's great. I think that's it's definitely a very interesting topic, and I could probably talk about this all day. But yeah, so if people want to get in touch with. Hey?
Gets me up in the morning, so.
Me too, mate. Me too. So if people want to get in touch with you, they can either come through me, and I can refer you through to Tim, or they can go to Tim directly. Just make sure you mention us. I don't get anything for this, but more just for he'll give you a discount if you say that you heard about us, through our blog. But yeah, Tim's always available. Check out their Facebook page, and I think he's...
go to our website, which is midpointwealth.com.au.
Yep.
On there you get some key understanding of what we're doing. But look, the best way to work with us is we'll sit down with you. I'm quite happy to give your clients an hour of my time to come and sit in their business and figure out exactly what it is that is their key challenges at the moment, and then provide them those sorts of performance or valuation services that are then relevant to their stage of business. Once we've done that, then we can then get back, help you to work with Ray to figure out exactly, okay, now we know where the issues are financially and in terms of performance and value, then Ray can work with you to improve those key areas.
Yeah, we'll do the game plan and get you moving. Alrighty, well, that was great, Tim. Thanks so much for your time. I know you just come back from holidays and you're probably still getting back into the groove of things.
Yeah,
but
always good to come back to work because I love what I do. So
I feel the same actually. People always complain about Mondays. I love Mondays.
Fantastic. Let's get into it. We're going to help this week.
Beautiful. All right, mate. Well, thanks so much, and I'll leave some links and stuff below the blog post, and if you want to get in touch with Tim and get clear on where your business is at, we can go from there. So
love to have that chat with those guys and see what we can do for you.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, thanks so much, Tim. I'm sure I'll see you around.
Thanks, Ray.
Cheers, mate.